time, we could please have your attention to the forward parts of each cabin for safety video. We do turn the cabin lights off, but this time they will remain off the entire flight. You'll find a reading light located above your seat.
مشاهدي العربية أينما كنتم، أهلا بكم في الحلقة الخامسة من برنامج ولاية الحسم. نحن هنا في ماديسون عاصمة ولاية ويسكونسن التي تعتبر أرض المعارك الواسعة والمفتوحة. هذه الولاية التي ضمن الجدار الأزرق صوتت لصالح الديمقراطيين منذ عام 1984 إلى أن استطاع الرئيس السابق دونالد ترامب أن ينتزعها منهم في انتخابات 2016، لكن بأقلية صغيرة جدا، ثم عادت إلى صالح الديمقراطيين في انتخابات 2020. كيف ستصوت في هذه الدورة الانتخابية ولمن ستصوت؟ سنعرف تفاصيل أكثر بعد قليل، لكن كالعادة نبدأ بتقرير للزميلة ريتا سليمان. إليك ريتا.
نعم نادية، سويا معك ومع المشاهدين سنستكشف خبايا هذه الولاية التي تعد أكثر الولايات تأرجحا في ظل الخرائط التنافسية الجديدة. فكما نعلم الولاية تشهد انقساما شبه متساو بين الناخبين المستجلين كديمقراطيين وجمهوريين. تاريخيا تمثل هذه الولاية خليطا من المناطق الريفية والمدن الصناعية التي تساهم في تشكيل مواقف متنوعة بين الناخبين. ويسكونسن صوتت لصالح جو بايدن بفارق ضئيل حوالي 21,000 صوتا بعد أن كانت صوتت للرئيس ترامب في انتخابات 2016.
I will liberate Wisconsin and our entire nation from this mass migration invasion of murderers.
التركيب العرقي في ولاية ويسكونسن كالتالي: غالبية من البيض وهو ما يمثل حوالي 83% من السكان. ثاني أكبر مجموعة هي الأمريكيين من أصول إفريقية يشكلون حوالي 6% من السكان، بينما يمثل الأمريكيون الآسيويون أكثر من 2%، في حين يشكل الأفراد الذين يعرفون بأنهم من عرقين أو أكثر حوالي 4%. القضية الأبرز التي تهم الناخب في ويسكونسن حسب كل استطلاعات الرأي تبقى الاقتصاد وأسعار السلع الكمالية والتضخم. ثلثي السكان لديهم وجهة نظر سلبية من قدرة الديمقراطيين على تحسين الاقتصاد، وفي هذه الحالة يتوجه الناخب إلى عقاب الحزب الحاكم.
The path to the White House goes through Wisconsin. Yes, it does.
So Wisconsin is one of the 7 swing states. So it really comes to the independent voters who have not made up their mind. So how can the GOP convince these people that they are better off under President Trump than under candidate Kamala Harris?
You know, as I travel with the state, and I've been with the president several times when he's been in the state, as I move around the state, which I've done for over 30 years, I've worked for 3 former governors, I know the state pretty well. A lot of what we hear in Wisconsin is what you hear around the country, and that is economics, the border, the immigration issue, but particularly on economics. And I think the difference this time is that with Donald Trump, he's not new at this. You know, people knew how good it was underneath Donald Trump, and low inflation, low unemployment, all those things that they liked about Donald Trump are all things that don't work for Kamala Harris. So I think that's kind of the contrast. Is I always say to people, look, if you want 4 more years of Joe Biden, vote for Kamala Harris. You do know what you're going to get.
I talked to many voters actually in all the swing states, and they said number one is the economy, and they believe that President Trump they are better off under him than Kamala Harris. But there are other issues. I spoke to somebody in Wisconsin, and they told me that they used to vote for President Trump, but they were worried about abortion issues. They're worried about freedoms that have been secured and could be taken away from them. They worry about the concept of democracy. So it's not just one single issue for people. That is the economy, is inflation, is unemployment, there's other things. So how do you get these people to your side?
Yeah, so it's interesting on the abortion issue. Probably most people who would vote on the abortion issue alone, let's just say that's their top issue, probably are not going to vote for Donald Trump if they're pro-abortion, if they're pro-choice. So that's probably not going to happen. What we see out there, I see it around the state, we see it in the research, or there are a vast swath, particularly of women voters, who abortion may be an issue that's important to them, but it's one of 3 or 4 that are important. It's not abortion no matter what. It's, so it's usually part of a package of issues. And also the number of people who will vote on abortion alone and abortion all the way, to the delivery room is not as large as the Democrats would like to think. There's a pretty good plurality of voters out there who may be pro-choice, in the first trimester or something like that, but aren't when you're further along in the pregnancy. So that's, we see that a fair bit, I would say. And also Donald Trump has said, look, he's not going to sign a national abortion ban. He never has been in favor of it.
This race is very close. Within the margin of error is like, give it or take, like 3 points or 5 points. So why do you think—
2 points.
Or 2 points. So why do you think it is that close if she's running, as the Republicans say, on Biden's policy, and she's very unpopular, and her popularity rate was 37%, etc., and she failed at the border. So why it is that close?
So from the conversations I have in the research I see, people primarily initially wanted Biden out of there. And frankly, he was forced out by his own party in about a 48-hour span. So I think part of it was forcing out Joe Biden because he clearly was going to lose the election. So most of what you see with the pollsters is there was so much relief for the Democrats over not having Joe Biden as their candidate that they were willing to look at anyone else. So I think a lot of their base came back, not because of Kamala Harris, but because Joe Biden was gone.
Do you believe that many people believe that President Trump's economic policy is better off than Kamala Harris? And in many states, they believe that. So how can the Harris campaign or the Democrats convince the independent voters that they're better off under a Democratic administration rather than President Trump?
I think it's very important to acknowledge the pain that working families are undergoing right now and feeling. I think it's important to talk about economic opportunity that comes with strong public investment, ensuring that we have a fair taxation system, and really speaking to how making investments and using government as a form of good, as a force of good, is what's going to help people understand that we are in this position right now because of Trump policy, and we have to think about an economy that works for everyone, and that's only going to come when we have the policies that Kamala Harris is speaking about in terms of building a stronger middle class.
So what is exactly the strategy that, for example, you will resort to convince people? Is just going knocking at everyone's door and saying, look, this is our plan. If you vote for us, this is what you're going to get?
I think it's important to speak to shared values. So Wisconsinites value hard work. Wisconsinites value freedom. Wisconsinites value having a future that will include our children's ability to flourish. And I think when you speak to how Wisconsinites not only deserve these things, but they've worked hard for them, And that's what's at stake, is if we do not have a democracy, which under a Harris administration we can strengthen our democracy, we are at risk of losing these ways of life because of our shared values. And I also think, you know, when I'm knocking on doors and other people ask me about canvassing and how can you have a conversation, I think it's really important to be an active listener, ask people what they care about, what they're scared about, and never shame, blame, or lecture.
What's the chances of Democrats winning Wisconsin, one of the 7 swing states in this election?
Well, I think we're feeling good about our chances, but we always say we're within the margin of effort, so we have to do the work to ensure that we're talking to every potential voter in the state. So along with my colleagues, I've been traveling the state, talking to as many voters as I can, not only about the top of the ticket, but going all the way down to the local races as well, and ensuring people know that those races are important and they have everything that they need to be able to cast their ballot in this election.
When you talk to people, what is the most important issue for them? Of course, in each state it's slightly different, but still people say it is inflation, it's the price of the gas prices, for example, or the basic commodities like, you know, bread and milk and eggs that middle-class families cannot afford. How do they articulate their complaint, if you want, or what they care about?
Right. I mean, cost of living is top of mind for many folks that I talk to. It's top of mind for me. I think about childcare and the fact that specifically in Wisconsin, it's very unaffordable for families to be able to send their children to be able to make sure that they're being taken care of so that they can go to work. And so families are having to stay home. So we really need solutions around childcare. We need solutions around making sure folks can put food on the table and that groceries are affordable for people all over our state. So I think you're right, that is an issue that I'm hearing, but I'm also hearing about reproductive freedom. I'm hearing a lot about making sure that our schools are funded the way that they should be. So it varies, but there are the issues of cost of living and making sure that reproductive freedom is addressed too.
For you as a voter, what's the most concerning? What are the major issues that you want to vote for?
Well, I think given our choices this year, I'm most concerned about the continuation of our democracy. I believe that Donald Trump is an ever-present danger given both his past actions and what he says he will do when he gets into office.
People say this election is consequential. Do you believe that it is a battle for America's soul and future?
Well, I think we certainly have a huge choice to make. There's very different paths being laid out between us, between the plans for Kamala Harris is sharing with voters and the plans Donald Trump is sharing with voters. And, you know, we have a choice to make. And the type of country we're going to be, are we going to be more open to the world? Are we going to be more open in our culture? Are we going to close ourselves off? And I think Kamala Harris represents openness and, you know, taking America's place in the world consistent with our values.
What is the major issue for you as a voter? What are you looking for in the candidate?
Sure. I have a ton of student debt. I have a bachelor's degree and 2 associates. I've already paid on my student loans for 10 years and I've made like no movement. And so starting in the next coming months, the rest of my student debt, it's like over $700 a month for the next 10 years. So for me, I've already paid for 10 years. The interest rates are just crazy with student loans. So student loans are a big part of my concern just because the financial debt is quite a burden. And then female rights, you know, I worry about, you know, birth control or what I can do medically. And so that is a concern to me as well.
I mean, the state voted for President Trump in 2016, but then voted for Biden in 2020. So if you have to predict which way do you think the state will go because of the issues, because women are a reliable voter, you know, among the categories, so which way do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, living in Madison, we are kind of a bubble. We are more liberal of a community. So, I mean, Madison, I know, will vote for Kamala. I just visited Milwaukee this weekend and was surprised to see all the lawn signs for her. Even my neighbor across the street, they're both ex-police officers. You know, I assume they're going to vote Republican. They have a Kamala sign in their front yard, so I have a feeling that Kamala will win Wisconsin.
So we're talking about some people saying that the economy is reflective on all states, including Wisconsin. So do you see this in an election year as a bit? How do you look at the economy and, like, for example, the prices that you have now, the inflation, the price of certain commodities? Which administration would be better for a farm like yours?
I think that's difficult because from each person, they kind of have different points of view on different areas that they want to see, maybe lower costs or more potential for help. And in certain states where they have a lot more regulations with the way that they produce things, it's a lot more imperative that they're able to get maybe grants or things like that to be able to produce their products. I don't know nearly enough about either person to truly say who would be a better selection for Wisconsin democracy and being able to see better prices for our products.
And do they canvass you? Do they come to people like you in a farm and say, for example, whether it's Harris or Trump, saying, I'm better for you on these issues, especially on inflation?
I know that both candidates have been to Wisconsin quite a bit since we are a swing state. But I don't believe at our farm in particular we've had either representative come and directly ask us what we truly want to see increased or decreased for our economy.
As goes Wisconsin, as goes the country. I think what happens in Wisconsin is very much a microcosm of what's happening in other states in the future, right? So what we've seen is rural voters starting to become rural voters becoming persuadable. We are seeing, you know, women and people who get pregnant really come together on this issue, regardless of whether they may identify as a Republican or a Democrat. We are seeing, because our wards and our districts, the votes are so close. The elections and what happens in Wisconsin with the election, I think, is going to be a catalyst for the trajectory of what happens with the rest of the country. You know, the fate of democracy runs through Wisconsin. The soul of democracy runs through Wisconsin because our voters know that's what's at stake.
To continue to talk to people about why their vote matters and why getting involved in their local races, the local politics, it's really going to impact their life. But I think as well, we need to make sure that it's easy and accessible for people to exercise their right to vote. And that's something that we need to continue to work for not only in education, but in policies, and making sure that folks are able to express their voice and opinion on the policies that impact them.
President Trump has a persona. He will talk about a lot of different issues, and a lot of them are great, and some of them are ones that maybe people, don't identify with themselves. But, our job is to make sure that people remember what the top 3 or 4 issues are. And I always say there's kind of a kind of a grocery store test on most issues. Kamala Harris can try to make people think that, things are so much better under the Biden administration. And then people go to the grocery store and they see what prices are right now.
Let's go out and vote. Get everybody involved.
We are ready to win in November.
And if Kamala gets 4 more...
2024, we will win again.
2020, I didn't say because we had a great...
Donald Trump lost the 2020 election.
بعد ويسكونسن سننتقل إلى الحلقة السادسة من برنامج ولاية الحسم. هذه الولاية المتأرجحة تقع في الغرب الأمريكي، تعتبر مهمة جدا وحاسمة وجوهرية للناخب الأمريكي بسبب القضية الأساسية التي تشغل بال الناخب الأمريكي، وهي القضية رقم 2، أزمة الحدود. إذا أردت أن تعرفوا المزيد عن هذه الولاية تابعونا في الحلقة القادمة في برنامج ولاية الحسم. إلى اللقاء.